Hey guys, welcome to our very first Cloud Talk. I'm Lauren Hemingway. I'm joined with our very own CEO of Insynq, Elliot Luchansky. I'm glad to have you.
Great to be here, Lauren.
If you want to give us a little intro about yourself and introduce yourself.
Sure, be happy to. So I'm the CEO here at CloudX Partners, which is Insynq and Cloud Runner. I went to college at a small upstate school, upstate New York school called Union College. Went there to actually play football.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What position?
Linebacker.
Oh wow, I can see that.
I was a lot bigger at the time. It was, sports are fun when you're good at them. So high school football was awesome. College football kind of sucked, but but whatever. It was a cool experience. After Union, went to work immediately. I was in the mergers and acquisitions group at a company called NFP.
What did you study?
Managerial economics.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a liberal arts school, so I didn't have finance. I would have been finance.
Okay, got it.
NFP, which was the company acquired small businesses, small financial services companies throughout the country, and basically just consolidated them all. So I was just flying all over the country with senior deal guys and closing lots of these smaller deals. So
nice.
Yeah.
And then, so you majored in managerial
economics.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then, how long were you out of college before you jumped into your MBA? And where did you
go? So I was at NFP for 3 years, and then I went over to a company called TradeWeb, which I was at TradeWeb for, call it 3.5, 4 years before I went to Columbia.
Okay.
Business school, yeah.
In business school, what did you major in?
There actually wasn't really a major sort of equivalent.
It was just a business.
They had the core curriculum, and then there's you kind of choose your own direction, but they don't label it.
Okay, yeah. So what did you do after Columbia then?
After Columbia,
Did you stay in New York?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy New York?
I love New York.
Do you like pizza?
I love pizza. We got to get you to New York sometime.
I like artichoke there.
Okay, artichoke's great. That's impressive. I'm impressed.
My sister was a flight attendant based out of Oregon, so she brought me to artichoke. I like artichoke. So what did you do after Columbia then?
So after Columbia, I went right out. Tapped on Michael Nazio, who also worked at TradeWeb, to be my business partner, and we went out and raised capital for sort of startup private equity firm called Elm Equity Partners.
Okay. And then that turned into CloudX?
Yes, exactly. So we formed Elm to find a single sort of platform acquisition to acquire, and then the plan was always for us to come out and then run that business. And the plan was we continued to expect to eventually do additional acquisitions, but this was all about finding one and then sort of just moving out there. Yeah, exactly. Moving out there and sort of focusing on it and ramping up growth. And
then you picked up on Insynq.
Yes, we did.
What drew you to that one?
So, we kind of had our general criteria of the kinds of businesses that we were interested in, which was more, there were industries that we were focused on, but it was more about certain attributes about the business. So recurring revenue, growing space, and a number of other sort of similar kind of attributes that aren't necessarily industry specific. But so we kind of narrowed down sort of the list, and that, on those criteria, there's, as you would expect, thousands and thousands and thousands of businesses. So we were just kind of reaching out to most of those businesses. We were also talking to investment bankers about, some that they had for sale, but we were more interested in finding sort of what we called a proprietary deal, meaning one that wasn't sort of formally for sale. And so that's what we spent most of our time doing, and that led us to Insynq here in Gig Harbor, Washington.
Okay, cool. And then what challenges did you face to get you where you are now, if any?
Yeah, I don't even know where to begin there. So
let's not talk about marketing.
Yeah, no, dear God,
we'll skip that.
Yeah, for sure.
Think in most broad sense, like what really, like even from the initial picking Insynq, what was the first one after that, maybe?
Okay, like other companies that we looked at?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we did, it's interesting, there was a natural draw, not really intended, to be honest with you, to cloud companies. So the other big major company that we were looking at and got very far down the road with was a cloud provider catering to the alternative investment space, so hedge funds and things of that nature. Whereas, in a similar way that Insynq caters to accountants and bookkeepers.
Yeah, and small business and things
Exactly.
Okay. What about any challenges post college? Did you have any there?
I had no shortage of problems post college. Yeah, I mean, work wise, like. I quickly embraced sort of being a workaholic, much to my girlfriend at the time's chagrin. But so just working constantly, and on the weekends, just leaning into the party scene, which is awesome. But ends up taking a toll on your body over time. I wouldn't trade it in for anything. And so I started in a company where there wasn't like other, I didn't have peers, so to speak. It was like me and like a bunch of guys who've been doing it for 10, 15, 20 years, which is in many ways is cool, but also was really tough. So you had to kind of grow up quickly.
But you learned a lot then.
Yeah, learned a ton. And then TradeWeb was a similar story. Already, I was further into my career, but working really close with the executive team there. And I mean, watching the company grow from 400 employees when we first got there to, about 700 when we left globally. So that was a fun sort of ride.
What about any challenges that you face currently that any small business, medium business owners can relate to?
So, I mean, what comes to mind there is sort of the challenge that, I think a lot of small business owners don't even know they're facing. They know it. I guarantee they acknowledge it. Some totally do. Many do. But and that is sort of the unending battle to attract and retain talent. I am a very, very firm believer about, it sounds cliche, people are your biggest asset. And because it sounds cliche, I don't really like to say that too much, but it is. I mean, like a lot of the times business owners or executives in businesses, large or small, got there because they're they know how to work really, really hard, and they want to sort of just take anything on, and it's like all about them just embracing it, full speed ahead.
You can't.
That's
it's
right.
Not possible.
That's exactly right, and that's So I mean, that's definitely something I've learned the hard way. And it's one thing to say; it's another thing to actually like make changes to your approach.
I feel like it's hard to let go too. Once you're so involved and so invested.
That's exactly right.
You don't want to.
And ultimately, that's what separates sort of the companies that will never be bigger than 5 to 10 employees, and those in the next stage, and then even more so than going from say 25 to 50 to 100 and up.
Go from small to medium.
Yeah. Where you're like the amount of your time spent delegating and sort of like giving feedback to people who are doing the actual work goes from like none to like a little bit to half to like it should be like almost all, and that's like just a different mindset. Some people just can't get over that gap, but like that's what's scalable. Doing it yourself is not scalable.
Yeah,
and you need good people for that.
That's important.
Yeah.
I feel like one thing is what we talked about earlier in the cloud, having kind of, instead of if you're like a small firm and you have maybe 10 employees and you have like one employee that decides to leave, and if you're not in the cloud and if you don't have all their work goes out the door with them.
Right.
So one, you need to have somebody that you can rely on, that you have good communication with, that is happy in their position. And then two, because they're not going to leave. And then two, if you were in the cloud, you would have your applications there, and if somebody were to up and leave like that, their work could just be picked up.
That's very well said, yes. And you're getting into some of the really exciting stuff that we have coming, that I don't want to get into necessarily too much, but liberating yourself by not being tied to your
It's really like
location.
optimizing, yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely optimizing. Especially in today's world where people are, working. It's a global economy. People are traveling constantly. A lot more people are working remotely.
Yeah.
A lot of I think that especially the younger generations are also finding ways to sort of mix work and their personal lives, so it's almost like a single continuum, right?
Yeah.
And so they're kind of like able to always be working in the cloud as they do that.
I mean, if you said, you easily became a workaholic.
Yes.
If you were my age, 24, and you had the cloud, I feel like you'd be working
Yeah, you're right.
You actually wouldn't go to sleep.
No, that's the flip side.
You'd be writing emails at 3.
But look, it's better to be doing that on the beach somewhere than...
exactly. All you need is internet.
Exactly.
So this month we're discussing optimization, and I was wondering what makes you most optimized? Maybe why?
Our chief of staff, Karen Miller.
Simply put, you need a Karen.
So I'm a big believer on optimizing. I'm good at optimizing other things.
You use a lot of apps.
Yes, I use a lot of apps. That's my attempt to optimize. Probably sometimes a little bit over the top, but So it's the optimizing thing is. It's a constant
key.
battle for me, but it is absolutely key because.
So basically, apps make you optimized, and then makes everything simple, mobile, everywhere you go, easy. Emails, documents.
Yeah, automating processes and making things very easy, and
So, at what point in your career did you begin using a cloud? Was it prior to Insynq?
Yeah, business school, it was sort of almost, I think it was a requirement already at that point to sort of collaborate with, other students. Business school, you're constantly working with other people. So, things like Dropbox and OneDrive, I know we were using heavily already.
Yeah.
And then at Elm Equity, we were very much embracing the cloud. Although I will say, when we found Insynq and we were first introduced to the core product, which is, it's ultimately a virtual desktop in the cloud, we were blown away. And what's fascinating is the accounting and bookkeeping. It's fascinating to me, at least. The accounting and bookkeeping community has sort of embraced the cloud. I would say, well before the majority of other sort of verticals and sort of professional services, to the extent where it's almost sort of an accepted, sort of foregone
new modern
conclusion. Yeah, well, but it's been there for a while. Whereas, clients in other industries and even people I've worked with before and friends of mine, things like that we show it to and introduce it to their business, they're just like, it's like the best thing. They're like,
why didn't I not know this?
Exactly, because what's great about like a Dropbox or a OneDrive or a Boxdot, right? It's not very secure, but what's great is that you can access your files and your data anytime, anywhere. Great. But to access what you were working on exactly where it was when you were working on it.
Yeah, that open email.
Yeah, open email. If you're on a spreadsheet, you go to work, you go to log in from home, and you can log in from anything from your phone to a laptop to your desktop at home. And it's literally like, if you're in the middle of a formula or something like that, you're still in the middle of that formula.
Yeah. Dropbox is only documents.
Yes, just exactly.
Right. So, point in your career, did you have any setbacks from using a cloud?
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people are very hesitant because of security, and I think that's a setback.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I've every day. It's maybe a little dramatic, but there's obviously a trend towards more and more and more cybersecurity concerns and threats and stories that you hear every day, right?
Insynq is compliant though, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Insynq does not have that.
Yeah, so that's the key. Is I mean, Insynq, we have a team of veterans that have been doing this for decades and decades. They are truly masters of their trade that are monitoring our infrastructure 24/7, 365, and they're also available 24/7, 365. So but if there's an attack on our infrastructure, we know it immediately. We address it immediately. And
to my knowledge, there's never been one, but.
Yeah, right. No, exactly. No, but we honestly, Lauren, we wouldn't even know. We would know if something went horribly wrong, but that's just no concern that that's the case.
Never has happened, never will, because we're secure.
Right. You don't have that. Someone focusing on your stuff as a small business with a larger provider like a Dropbox or something like that, and they're not even the same service.
And then there's the public clouds that like Amazon Web Service offers. Google's doing theirs.
Sure.
So those are the ones that I feel like are target for hackers.
Yeah.
They might be, just as secure, but that's their target. They're not going for.
Well, the bigger you are, the bigger the bullseye on your head, for sure. That doesn't Amazon is sort of its own animal, I would say, in some ways. Where you're. I would say there's room for much more concern is the Dropboxes of the world and the OneDrives of the world.
Yeah. That would be scary if you had some social security number in a file in your Dropbox and just that got taken away.
Yeah, and how many people do we get, new clients that are, it's devastating to hear. It can be after sort of, natural disaster, all the hurricanes recently, people's stories. The good stories about clients of ours who are like, everything's fine and they were never worried because they know their stuff was not near them. And also, those that, weren't set up with an environment or a provider like us that, lost not only their personal goods and everything like that in the hurricane, but also lost, they need to start over from scratch with working and they don't have their clients' data and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's important.
A new concept,
it's important. It's easy to take for granted until you need it.
It is, definitely. Yeah. So what would you say, how would the cloud optimize your everyday business as a small business owner or an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
How would this change their game?
So, there's kind of now and there's sort of in the works. But they're both tie into my answer as to how.
Yeah.
The first thing I would say is that, particularly when you're talking about small businesses, password management and the security that comes with that and the sort of the administration behind it.
Yeah.
The fact that you have people passing around passwords on Post-its or keeping it in Excel or, just memorizing the same password all the time, whatever, is incredibly dangerous. And especially in a small business where you don't have, the backing of a huge organization and the processes and everything that comes along with that, there's always going to be a reactive element to what you do.
Right.
And if you're hiring or firing an employee, you're not going to just, so password management and sort of, granting access in a streamlined way where you press a button and the new employee automatically is logged, gets access to all the apps that you want them to get access to is one thing for sure.
Definitely a game changer.
Yeah. And in addition, I would say sort of, as the workforce gets more and more mobile, mobility management, I think is absolutely key. The ability, if you have an employee who loses a device or goes, just runs off of the device or something, the ability to just wipe it clean from, home base is powerful. And then obviously sort of, it's just the ability to collaborate within your organization, especially if you have multiple offices
sharing
and things
data.
like that. Yeah, exactly. Where it's it's very secure. It's almost like sort of your own network, your own infrastructure.
Your own intranet, really.
Exactly. But you can very easily communicate and exchange files and work on things together.
So what's a typical day like in Elliot's world?
They're definitely, it's hard to describe a typical day.
How's it structured?
What
time do you wake up?
I wake up at 4 a.m. usually.
What?
Yeah. And I'm usually here.
No sleep. That's the CEO mentality.
No sleep. No. Well, actually, what I'd actually say over time, I'm sleeping actually more than I have in a long time.
Oh, wow, that's good.
Which means I'm going to bed at like 11 or something. But yeah, so get up early. You get in here pretty much as fast as I can, and use that time religiously. Hold back from diving into emails and catching up with the never-ending sort of attempts coming from every single direction to that are low priority items. I think it's incredibly important to
you prioritize a lot then.
Prioritize, and also just like that, especially for me particularly, that those first like 2 or 3 hours where there's not really everybody isn't in the office yet. We always have people here, but and where I can close my door and I can focus, and like I literally I won't even have like email open or things like that, so I can literally just focus on some key stuff. And like 2 or 3 hours in, I'm like, all right, I made some real big progress today. Let the chaos begin. And then it's
around 9 o'clock.
Then I just go where I'm told, pretty much.
And then your day really begins.
Yeah, exactly.
Karen comes in and
the work stops, the day begins. Yeah.
So how and where do you work best then? Do you work at home better than you work at the office?
Yeah. So we're talking. I work. This is strange. I work unusually well on airplanes. I'm serious. I really do.
It's good, though.
I don't. Yeah. Like it's. I get on and it's just like turn it on and I'm going. So
you can't focus on airplanes.
Yeah, no, I know. I've heard a lot of people tell me that. I can see why. I mean, there's certain comfort variables you can't necessarily always control who's sitting next to you and things like that. But
okay, so home or office then? What works better for you?
Yeah. As far as like getting things done where I'm focusing, or sort of me thinking and sort of reflecting, which is like I would argue is the most sort of important productive time for me, without question, home.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, and look, I mean, I've invested in setting up my home to be sort of a true.
Yeah.
Pretty decked out and everything,
Your wife knows not to talk to you when you're in your office.
My wife does whatever the hell she wants to do at all times. I want to be clear about that. But, so now we got a kid, maybe that pulls away from it a little bit, but in a way that I'm totally comfortable with. Work is good, obviously, for working with the rest of the management team here. And
with your cloud, you can work from home.
Absolutely.
And then all your employees can also work from home, but they're also on the cloud, which is huge.
That's exactly
traveling, making appointments, out in the field, doing their thing. That's
very well said.
They work better in the field, maybe, with a client.
Yep.
So how do you problem solve then? I tend to find my end goal and kind of like figure it out in the middle, and then
I think I take that approach as well. I try to, and also just kind of breaking problems up into smaller sort of pieces and subcomponents. So it's like, I mean, there's a psychological factor where you're not trying to tackle, try to do, something that in totality feels overwhelming, but if you break it up into its little pieces, once you've kind of worked backwards to know what those pieces are, it makes it much more manageable.
Who are your biggest influencers?
We have a phenomenal board of directors and group of engaged investors. So almost everyone in that group, particularly on the board, truly is sort of
it's really nice to be able to like
mentor for me.
Yeah, find somebody on there.
Yeah,
they're all different experts.
That's right.
They come together. It's just
that's exactly right. And you know, they don't agree on everything, which is, you know, that's good.
That's a good thing.
It would be bad if they did. But
you don't want yes men.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. They're definitely not yes men, but all in their own ways. They sort of have experience to sort of bring to the table that is really valuable. And then, you know, for me, I mean, you know, I'm very much into investing. So I mean, you know, Warren Buffett definitely is a huge influencer for me. Joel Greenblatt, who's another sort of, you know, he's a longtime hedge fund manager. Who's also a Columbia guy.
Oh, cool.
And Jay-Z.
Jay-Z. That's awesome. Do you have any one single piece of advice to any small business owners maybe starting out?
Fire fast, hire slow.
Interesting. Yeah. All right, well, that brings us to an end. Thanks for coming and talking to me today,
great.
Elliot.
Thanks for having me.
And I will post your LinkedIn and your Twitter, and make sure you follow us on Insynq.
Awesome.